Turn it up.
I told you now.
Please.
You are worse than me.
Another year is ending. Shey you dey whine me.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Batterbox podcast. And of course, you know they call me Baba K. And as usual, I'm here to share another exciting topic. Of course, you know, on the Batterbox podcast, I talk pretty much about everything. But today, I just want to, probably go a different route. And that is sharing another story of mine, my personal story, my journey in life. Now, a lot of people know me as Baba K, but before Baba K, there was Kingsley, which is the name my parents gave me when I was born. Kingsley is the name that I am known by. Now, and most people, a lot of people really don't know that I am physically challenged. I walk with the aid of crutches right now, but I wasn't born physically challenged. I was born just normal, like every child was born. But then I was born during the era when polio epidemic or polio was serious. And at that time, because of the lack of exposure, my family, my parents were not aware, or probably they didn't take it serious to take me for immunization. And so somehow I contacted polio and it cost me my right leg. Now, I'm not saying that my right leg was amputated. I still have my right leg, but if you know how polio victims are, you know that if it affects any of the leg, that leg looks a little bit tinier than the other leg. In most cases, it affects two legs, but in my own case, it was just my right leg. And my right leg is smaller. It has shrunk over time, and the vein is deep. I'm just taking time to create the visual picture of how my right leg is. But anyway, that's aside. Now, so what that means is that I've had to struggle, over the years from my time as a kid, growing up. I've had various struggles, various challenges. And, for me, I think those challenges kind of, shaping me to the man that I am today. But then, this is how my story started. My mom and dad, fell in love like every normal young man and young girl, or young boy, young girl will fall in love. And my dad being a man trying to provide for his family after he found out that my mom was pregnant, he had to leave Delta State or Bengal State at that time and come to Lagos to get a job. And while he was running around trying to get a job, somehow he got a job with the SSS, NSO back then, but now called, if you hear that creak, that's my neighbor opening his gate. So normally I would edit it, but today I just want everything around so that I just want to feel myself, and I do not want anything to distract me. So that creak you're hearing is my neighbor opening his gate and going into his apartment. But anyway, that's aside. And so my dad got a job with NSO, now currently DSS. And, he started working with the DSS at that time. He got promoted while my mom was still in the village after she had given birth to me. So, a whole lot happened while my dad was in Lagos working with the DSS. And my mom taking care of me together with my grandmom. And one of those days, they just discovered that I couldn't walk again. It was like I was walking tonight and the next morning I woke up, couldn't walk. First of all, my mom thought maybe I was not just ready to walk that night. but she tried playing with me or tried carrying me up, and they noticed that I couldn't stand. And first, they just thought it was nothing, but the entire day, they noticed I couldn't work. At that time, the polio has started kicking in. What they didn't know is that over the few months, and when this story was around when I was almost a year, I think a year or going to 2 years. So 2 years as a kid, I couldn't walk again. And my mom, I know at that time there was no phone, there was no email. And most times if you write a letter, you have to look for a bus or a car traveling all the way down to Lagos and send the letter through as a driver. The driver would have to get to Lagos and try to locate where the person is before they could deliver the letter. So for a very long time, my dad was not in the village. He was in Lagos for like 6 months. And then one day he came back to the village. You know, it was supposed to be the week of my birthday. He had bought a lot of things for me, gifts and all those things, bicycle. And he came down from the cab that brought him all the way from the park into the compound in the village. And normally when my dad comes, if I sight him from afar, I would run to him. He would pick me up, play with me, drop me on the floor, and the play continues. But that day, my dad came down from the car, saw me seated far away in front of the house. I didn't stand up. I didn't move. You know, but he just felt like maybe he's tired. He doesn't really want to stress himself. And as he got closer to where I was seated, he noticed that I still wasn't standing up. And I'm sure at that time he was wondering what's going on with my son. How come he's not getting up? What's the problem? And so by the time he got closer to where I was, he called my name, my native name, Mwaboize. I looked at him. He picked me up, played with me, and dropped me on the floor. Normally, as he dropped me on the floor, I would stand, but I fell right back on my butt. And when he turned, he saw my mom and my grandmom seated at one corner of the compound crying. And he was asking, what's going on? Why is he not standing up? And my mom was full of tears. Even my grandmother, that's my mother's own mother, my dad kept on asking, and they just didn't know how to tell him that I woke up one morning and I couldn't walk again. And that was how the journey started. They started taking me from one hospital to another hospital, one medical doctor to another medical doctor, and it just continued. That's the siren. Anytime big, the power comes back, you hear that siren. That's how we know that the light is back. So, and like I said, this episode, I'm really not going to edit anything. And I just wanted to be raw, as natural as possible. Everything around me needs to be part of this story that I'm telling today. So, and the journey started. They took me from one pastor to another native doctor, and everybody was concocting, everybody was praying, the doctors were treating. In fact, at a particular time, I spent almost like 6 to 7 years at Ibobi Orthopedic Hospital here in Lagos. They were looking for different ways to find a solution to the problem of my leg. But the polio had already eaten deep, and there was no reversal of this problem. Anyway, so at the age of 5, I had already known that this is the reality. And it might seem like, how do you know? But that's the truth. Somehow, I think I'm one of those kids at that age who really knew, or who really understood life. How that happened, I did not know, but there were a lot of things that I understood when I was very, very young. And so I'd known that this problem, I just have to accept it how it is, without, thinking or feeling bad. I just had to start, with the help of and now the issue was that I wasn't even working. So I was creeping on my butt. I'm not saying creeping on my knees. I was moving with my butt on the floor. I could not walk. I'm usually stuck in one place. And if I need to move, I just keep moving on my butt. Now imagine a child who could not walk moving on his butt. And most times I would see kids my age playing football, and because I was always fascinated by football, while they're running around kicking the round letter ball, running with my butt on the floor, trying to also enjoy the football game the way they are enjoying the game. And it went on for so many years. That was the life I knew. That was the life I couldn't avoid, but I just had to find a way to accept it and just embrace it rather than sulk over it or feel depressed. I continued. In most cases, my mom would come back from the market after warning me not to go out and play football with my friends or with other kids. But because I always love football, the moment she steps out of the house, you see me creep out with my butt, and I'm creeping around, running around with every other kid. Please ignore the sound you're hearing on the background. Just said it earlier that this episode is just going to be as raw as possible and as natural as possible. And it continued over the years. Most times my mom would come back and see me playing football while other kids are running around on their legs. I'm just doing the same thing with my butt on the floor, and my entire body is messed up. My shorts has patches all over, because of the friction from just running around, being on the floor. But that was the life that was given to me. I had no choice, but I needed to also enjoy the life because, I feel like because of this situation, I shouldn't be confined to one sport or not be happy with my life. I was always happy. Now, I'm sharing this experience because most times I see a lot of people who complain about their current situation, but the thing is, you will never know how lucky you are in your own bad situation compared to another person's bad situation. All bad situations are not the same thing. They are not. No matter how bad you think yours is, all bad situations are not the same thing. And so over the years, I've learned to, find a way to give myself peace. I found a way to, cope with every situation around me. So it continued over the years. Now, this is one thing that at some point, because I could not walk, I was on the floor. My grandmother took her time to, teach me. First, she had to teach me how to stand on my feet again, because I was walking earlier. You remember, around 7-9 months, I was already walking. But then a year and probably almost 2 years, I couldn't walk again. So that means I actually walked before with my 2 legs. Then until the polio finally set in, I couldn't walk again. So now learning how to stand was a whole new thing again to me. It was a whole new experience. And so my grandmom took her time to teach me, and it was a very painful and excruciating time of my life because the vein in my right leg was already seriously stiff. And when I mean stiff, think of it this way. The vein is something that expands while you're walking. You're juggling, if you're jogging, if you're running, if you're exercising, there's this flexibility the vein has, but I lost the capacity for my vein to do those things. It became very stiff. It could not expand, and so somehow it looked like my right leg was shrinking because the vein became very, very stiff. Now, so most times when my grandmom was trying to teach me how to stand, she would massage my legs, stretch it, and the more she's stretching it, it means like the vein is almost going to, cut it into two. And gradually, I learned how to stand. Now, standing was just the first phase. I now had to learn how to gain balance while standing. That took another 1 year, if not 2 years to learn. Then when I learned that one, she has to teach me how to walk again. Now, I wasn't going to walk like every normal kid. because my leg or my vein was already, stiff. It means that for me to move around, I would have to carry my right leg with my right hand, holding the knee and moving around. I don't know how to paint that picture for you, but that was my situation at that time. And I started moving. But when moving, I'm bending over. It's almost like I'm tumbling. But then I wasn't. I was just the way I was walking, and that continued for several years until nursery school, primary school. Now, this was the one of the most difficult times of my life was when I was in primary school. Don't forget I mentioned that my dad got a job with the DSS or SSS at that time. After several years, something happened. He lost that job. We moved from the SSS quarters and life became difficult. We moved to a smaller facing kind of apartment. And so for us, it was a new life. It was a new life at that time. So we're living in more like a ghetto-like area, a kind of life that I and my sisters were not used to. Now, I had to jump a lot of other things just to take you, because I'm trying as much as possible to cover a lot of ground while telling you the story. And so most times, especially when I was in primary school, I attended a private nursery school at that time. Then things got bad. My dad could not afford to send us, I and my siblings, to a private nursery school. Then we started going to public schools. So public schools meant that we could no longer go to school with school bus, meaning we had to now walk from our house down to the bus stop, take a public bus, and that was a totally different experience for us. So for every time I was going to school, all the kids in my area, because they had never seen a child walk the way I was walking, which seemed funny to them. Yes, if I was them, I think I would also laugh at me. But it seemed funny to them. So because every time I'm walking, I'm bending over, it was strange to them. So they were always singing and laughing behind me. So it's like, imagine this, I'm going to school as a kid, an 8-year or 10-year-old kid at that time, going to school. And as I'm going, we have a crowd of kids behind me, singing behind me, and they're clapping their heads, they're mocking me, and they were doing this in Yoruba language. You hear something like, Omo lese kan, that's the boy that has one leg, and they're singing this behind me. And it was really sad. It was demoralizing. It was heartbreaking, and I couldn't do anything. And so it was so bad that anytime I wanted to go to school in the morning, as my mom would bring me out of the compound, I would peep to see if the kids were around. And once I noticed they're hanging around, because they used to hang around waiting for me to come outside so that they could repeat the same song and mock me. And so I would come outside, peep, and if I see them, I would tell my mom, I'm not going to school. My mom would tell me, you're joking. You have to go to school. You're not going to allow this thing you see become a discouragement for you. And somehow I was summoned the courage, come out, carry my school bag, walking the funny way I'm walking again, going to school. And the chants and the songs, the mockery begins. These kids will all be behind me, singing, laughing, mocking, and it was terrible experience for me. Anyway, this is just the part 1 of the story. The next episode is the part 2, and I'm just going to continue there. But don't forget, this is the Batterbox podcast, and you can follow us on all our various social media platforms, and as well, stream the Batterbox podcast on all streaming platforms. Don't forget, the matter does not matter until it begins to matter.
Bata bata, bata bata, bata box.